Hello, today we'll be talking about costs and benefits when it relates to ancient Rome from republic to empire. Our essential question is, was Roman expansion into an empire worth the cost? Rome before expansion. The first group to live in the area that would become Rome was the Latins. As Rome grew, their culture was greatly influenced by their neighbors, the Etruscans and the Greeks. So let's talk about the first period of expansion. There were 245 years of constant warfare. Rome gradually took control of the entire peninsula, and after the last Etruscan king was overthrown and the Republic was born, the Romans began to expand their territory. In 390 BCE, Rome nearly comes to an end. A band of Gauls, a warlike people from the north, attacked the city. Most of Rome's people fled, and the Gauls burnt down most of the city. With the city in ruins, the Romans considered giving up, but they start over by rebuilding their city and surrounding it with walls. During the 300s BCE, Rome conquers the tribes that inhabited the peninsula. By 264 BCE, Rome's conquest of the Italian peninsula was complete. Answer this question. Do you think it was worth the cost of 245 years of constant warfare to conquer the Italian peninsula? Second period of expansion. During the second period of expansion, it fought 3 wars for control of the area around the Mediterranean Sea. In each of these wars, Rome's enemy was Carthage, a powerful city-state in North Africa. The Greek colonies in southern Italy fought with Carthage over trading. When Rome took over southern Italy, they were brought into the fight. The first Punic Wars were won by the Romans, where they took over Sicily and islands in the area. The Second Punic War started 23 years later when the Carthaginians attacked Italy. Hannibal, who was a Carthaginian general, surprised the Romans by marching his army from Spain across the Alps and into Italy. His troops rode elephants and braved snowstorms, landslides, and attacks by local tribes. For 15 years, Hannibal's men fought the Romans in Italy. In 202 BCE, Hannibal needed to return home and defend Carthage against an attack by a Roman army. There he was defeated in battle that ended the Second Punic War. Carthage was forced to give up Spain to Rome. For about 50 years, there was peace between Rome and Carthage. Then, a senator named Cato demanded the complete destruction of Carthage, and the Romans attacked again. The Third Punic War lasted for 3 years. The Romans burned Carthage to the ground, killed many people, and sold many into enslavement. In addition to death, Romans also had large portions of farmland destroyed from Carthage's armies. As a result, they needed to import food from other places. In addition to getting money, Rome also conquered all of Carthage's land. Stop and think. Answer this question. Do you think it was worth all of the death and destruction to take over Carthage? Third period of expansion. By the third period of expansion, Rome had gotten much wealthier, but the Republic was collapsing. The final years of the Republic were marked still by more war. Slave revolts. As Rome conquered new territory, they captured hundreds of thousands of enslaved people. The enslaved were often treated harshly. An enslaved person named Spartacus led a famous revolt in 73 BCE. After crushing his army and killing Spartacus in battle, the Romans sentenced thousands of enslaved people to death on crosses. There was trouble brewing in the city too. With so many enslaved people to do the work for free, thousands of people were out of work. They crowded into Rome, becoming a mob that an ambitious leader could turn into an army. Enter Julius Caesar. 40 years later, a civil war erupts between 2 military generals, Pompey and Julius Caesar. Both men had expanded Rome's territory. In 45 BCE, Pompey was in the city of Rome, and Caesar was commanding an army in the north of Italy, just across the Rubicon River. Both men wanted to control Rome, but Pompey had the support of the Senate. The Senate forbade Caesar from crossing the Rubicon. In 49 BCE, Caesar and his army crossed the Rubicon anyways. After 3 years of fighting, his army finally defeated Pompey, and the frightened Senate, with Caesar's encouragement, named Caesar dictator for life. With Caesar in control, the Republic ended after 500 years. Caesar is the dictator, and as the dictator, Caesar introduced many reforms to the plebeians, the common people. He created jobs for thousands of Romans by building new roads and buildings. To keep the plebes entertained, he staged free gladiatorial games. He adopted the calendar that is still used today. As a dictator, Caesar introduced many reforms for the plebeians, the common person. He created jobs for thousands of Romans by building new roads and buildings. To keep the plebes entertained, he staged free gladiator contests. He adopted the calendar that we still use today. Caesar is famously assassinated by the Roman Senate, people that disagreed with his tactics and the way that he came into power. The third period of expansion ends with even more land than from the Punic Wars, spreading to natural borders. Stop and think. Do you think Roman expansion was worth losing their beloved republic? The fourth period of expansion, the assassination aftermath. Caesar's murder plunged Rome into civil wars that lasted over 10 years. When the fighting ended, Caesar's grandnephew Octavian takes power as the sole ruler. The Civil War. In order to gain power, Octavian had to defeat jealous rivals, one of whom was Mark Antony, a general who was married to Queen Cleopatra of Egypt, who looked nothing like this picture of Elizabeth Taylor playing Cleopatra. Antony and Cleopatra were defeated by Octavian in a sea battle near Greece, chased back to Egypt, where they then killed themselves. Octavian becomes Augustus. Octavian knew that the Romans wanted the Republic back, so he told everyone he was restoring power back to the Senate. The truth was, he was in complete control. The Senate gave him the title Augustus, or honored. He ruled for life as Caesar Augustus and considered Rome's first emperor. Analyze this quote. I found Rome brick and left it marble. Caesar Augustus. The good. As emperor, Augustus encouraged art, education, and literature. He completed grand construction projects such as repairing temples and building new buildings. He gave Rome its first fire and police force. He ruled over 50 million people and pushed the empire to natural borders to better defend it. Taxed citizens and used the money to improve the empire, creating a single system of currency to make it easy to trade. The bad. To reform morals, Augustus harshly punished people for breaking his rules. To protect himself and his family, he established a private army called the Praetorian Guard. Later, this guard sometimes participated in murder plots to kill the emperor. Transformation complete. Under Rome, the Mediterranean world was mostly at peace for 200 years, called the Pax Romana, or Roman peace. But keeping the peace costed the Romans a great deal, as you will later find out. Later emperors added to territory from Britain to the Red Sea. A single power ruled over the greatest empire the world had ever known.